shout out to ESPN, who allowed Craig Sager in 30 years in broadcasting to do an NBA Finals game for the first time ever. Sager strong. Great to see you there, Craig. Let's dig into Game 7 of the NBA Finals. People are saying, without hyperbole, this may be the biggest Game 7 we've seen in a generation. We've got two franchises on the brink of success. Cleveland has been 52 years since they've had a championship. Beyond the hype and the legacies, James, Golden State looks worn down both mentally and physically from this historic season. What are you seeing from these guys going into Game 7?
I'm seeing this is the most adversity that Golden State's faced in the last 2 years. The OKC down 3-1 was huge, and I'm wondering how emotionally drained they were coming off of that, because we all said it seemed kind of anticlimactic for them having to face Cleveland in the finals when they're up 3-1. Oh, this is not a big deal. But even for them, they expended so much energy and got so emotional playing OKC, and they've had to fight so hard to come back. They fought so hard to get the 7-3 wins. Steph Curry looks absolutely drained. I don't think it's injury. I'm not going to give him the injury excuse. I think he's just literally just fried, mentally cooked, what I call it, or popped. When a guy's just pushed too far, he can't really bounce back in 2 days for the next game. That's what I see from Steph Curry right now. You see that Iguodala's back is starting to act up. When backs start acting up, they don't get better in 2 days. They don't.
Yep.
A long season grind, you got lower back problems, you're not going to get better by Sunday. Bogut's already out. Azili's in the doghouse. Harrison Barnes can't make a shot, and that's mental. And on this stage, all that pressure is finally, I think, starting to maybe chip away at Golden State's feelings of invincibility. So it's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, Steph throwing the mouth guard said a lot to me. I've never seen him so frustrated in his life. Phil, one name that James mentioned was Bogut. I mean, what's the series like without him anymore?
Not to toot my own horn, but this is actually something I called at the beginning of the season. One of these key pieces for them, as much as he doesn't get the acclaim that a lot of these players do, but he allows them to play small on a lot of levels. Him being a legit 7-footer with good wingspan, great defensive ability. Plus, let's not forget, he's one of the elite passers as a center in the NBA. So you take that out of the game, and as James said, Azili is, for all his ability, is not consistent, and in the NBA playoffs, consistency doesn't get you minutes. I mean, they're playing James McAdoo at like minutes, so let's not forget this, right? When you take him out, they're forced to play small, and then you can adjust to a more normative play against them. I mean, when you're playing Golden State in the regular season, they can play big, they play small. It's tough to play against. I think he's a huge loss, and right now they're showing that they have no rim protection without him. I mean, guys are just going. I mean, if you look at LeBron James, I mean, people are criticizing, including myself, for settling for little fadeaways and little floaters, but he's still getting to 5-6 feet within the basket, and he's just choosing to do that. Yeah. And when you do that consistently and let LeBron pass out of the low post to all those open shooters who are hitting their shots, it's a tough stance.
One name we haven't mentioned yet is Draymond Green. I don't know why we haven't mentioned him yet, but Justin Rowan, our colleague, says that he's the straw that stirs the drink. He has not been there mentally, physically. He seems like he's capable. What do you expect from him in Game 7?
If I could step in, and I'm going to say this about it's hilarious to me that we're focused on Draymond, we're focusing on Bogut. Unanimous MVP somehow is kind of skating a little bit. Now, back to Draymond. I think he kind of is the engine for them, the emotional soul for them. I think when he got suspended and that dust up with LeBron, where he called him the B word, I think LeBron grabbed the power of the series back from him. He's known for getting other players' heads. LeBron got in his head in that moment, and he made Draymond take it something outside of basketball. LeBron, I think, inside his head, it clicked for LeBron. I got him now. And we're seeing that. Draymond Green is not being Draymond Green. I think he's kind of overthinking everything. He's worried about his fouls. He's thinking about what he's doing. He's not used to being in that position. When after Game 6, he had nothing to say. That says volumes because he's always had something to say. So I think mentally he's been kind of one-upped by LeBron James, who LeBron James has been the lowest of the low. We saw him in 2011. He had the terrible game, bad series. He lost in that series in 2011. So LeBron doesn't care about this stuff. he's already been there. He's a vet at this. This is Draymond's first time on the big stage having issues, and I think it's kind of affected him.
I was saving him for last. That's how well he's been playing. Phil, is there anything he's doing wrong right now?
LeBron James, I'd say just those floaters and not taking it to the basket. I mean, I'm pulling at straws at this point, right? But sometimes I just wish he would finish at the rim a little bit more. Although, look, he's expending so much energy on both sides of the ball. It makes sense, and I kind of get it. But, I mean, he just needs to continue attacking. I mean, mixing it up with his jump shot. He's having an all-world series. And I think it's interesting. We're saying how, Steph Curry is getting out of this situation. I mean, LeBron James, from the moment the season began, was public enemy number one, right? So there have been very few players who have had more, criticism throughout. He's a guy who doesn't want to take the last shot. He's a guy who chokes in situation. He's been to the final 6 times, and how many rings does he have? There's a lot of great players that have that. But for him, I remember when he won his first championship with Miami, he had kind of a sports psychologist visit him for a while, and you just saw that light switch flick on, and he just went into another mode. And I feel this year he just did the same thing. Like, when they're winning, there's no emotion. I mean, on some things at the end when he blocked Curry, I get all that. He's just he's set in, and he realizes, like James said, what it takes. He's a veteran at this point. He's not messing around, and he's become an amazing leader. Like, the fact that whole team with all those big names. I mean, look, think of J.R. Smith 5 years ago, and then look at where he is now. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of LeBron James. Look at Tristan Thompson when we all thought he didn't deserve that contract. Look at Tristan Thompson now. That's a lot of LeBron James. Look at Richard Jefferson seeing the light because LeBron James let the story be told, right? He's proving it on every level, and you know what? As much as I want to nitpick, I'm not going to nitpick on a couple floaters because he's doing the rest so well.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, Kyrie has had several 30-point games in this series. He's made Steph look like a liability defensively. James, in terms of the MVP conversation that you brought up, if Cleveland loses, do you still give LeBron the MVP?
No, I'm not a fan of giving the losing player MVP. I don't care how great he plays. He might deserve it, but I wouldn't do it. And it's really tough to pick who you give it to on Golden State because, Dre missed a game. Steph hasn't really been played very well. He's been very inconsistent. Iguodala now is hurt, and he was my front runner before. But no, I never want to give it to the guy on the losing team because, I mean, you're not the most valuable if you lose, no matter how I slice it. That's how I see it.
Phil, in 5 seconds or less, who's winning and why?
Cleveland, why LeBron James?
James?
If you asked me this a couple of days, 5 seconds or less, I got to say Cleveland, and for no other reason than LeBron James sees the finish line and smells blood in the water.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. Let's move